And so before I turn this over to Dr. Romero, I want to say that my message for the football players for Monday is to grab your helmet and be ready for practice. Then after practice, I want you to grab your mask so that you can protect others that you might be around. And this is very important as we enter into this season, that the risk is not just on the practice field, but the risk is also as we go about the community. And our coaches, our trainers need to emphasize this to the players. They need to understand it, and they need to set the example for their peers about wearing masks, and even during this time of athletic competition, to support our state in staying healthy along with everyone else. With that, Dr. Romero.
All right. Okay, you guys ready? It's Flamingo Friday. Oh, yeah. 3, 2, 1. Yo. Oh, there you go. How do you like that? A little triple A. That wasn't supposed to be there. How you guys doing? It's Flamingo Friday. Such a wonderful time of the week. Who doesn't like Flamingo Friday? Who doesn't like Fridays? I ask you. All right. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. Broham Todd, what's up, man? Long time no see. Am I actually the first? No way, he says. Tommy Lewis. Tommy, how you doing, my man? He says, hey, bub, missed you today. Sorry about that. Hey, I just wanted to live stream what Governor Hutchinson had to say about Arkansas football. We'll touch on that in a little bit. Josh Williams says, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Please do. Thank you, Josh, for the kudos there. I appreciate it. Look at them shades. Aren't they just, man, I'm telling you guys, I ought to call this the clean drip Friday or something. I don't know. Damn, those shades are dope. Are they for the bright future of the Hogs? How about Arkansas high school football maybe happening on time? How about that? That's a possibility. It's a real possibility. Governor Hutchinson and his team more or less throwing it out there like we are. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to kind of clean that up a little bit. I know everyone seems to think, we're getting high school football on time, high school players and coaches, staff members. Everyone's excited. We're getting football on time. Not so fast. There's a little bit more to it than that. Okay, there's a little bit more to it than that. We'll touch on that. Also, to the Patreon supporters, thank you guys so much. You guys are rock stars. Everyone's rock stars. You guys being here, you're rock stars. You already know that, though. But yeah, to everyone who's donated into the PayPal, if you've been a Patreon member. Even if you're not one anymore, but you used to be. Thank you, guys. I appreciate all the support. Maybe happening, says Tripp. That is exactly right. Maybe happening. If students aren't allowed in games, I'm going to cry. Yeah. Speaking of that, I cut my eyeball. I cut my eyeball somehow. I don't know. Yesterday morning, I got up like at 1:30 in the morning, and my eye is just driving me insane. And it's like it's just watering, and I'm walking around in our room. I woke my wife up. I'm going, Have you ever seen the Peter Griffin from Family Guy, the clip from Family Guy where he hits his knee and he's sitting there rocking back and forth holding his knee and he's going, It was kind of an ongoing gag on Family Guy for a while, kind of like the chicken fight. That's what I was doing, and I woke her up that morning. I felt kind of bad. But that's what my eye's doing. It's still doing. It just continues. I mean, here, you want to see how red it is? Is it red? Do you see how red it is? I don't know what's going on. I'm not crying, I promise. I'm not crying. You're crying. Yeah, so anyways, check out all the links down below. The latest Hawk Talk podcast is out. A heads up for those of you who haven't listened to it yet. It is a good one. It's a good one. Anytime you got Kai and Ty on a podcast together, which is typically every Friday, it's good stuff. It's just good content. But just a heads up, we had to record that Wednesday night. So we had no idea really what this meeting was about that happened on Thursday, which led to us now knowing that the SEC is going to go to a 10-game only schedule. So just a kind of a heads up there. I don't know why I have this one hair back here. He just wants to be a loner. There we go. Okay, so that explains the shades. No, I wear these every Flamingo Friday, just like the Flamingo shirt. You just gotta respect the drip. That's all. Let's get into what exactly happened today with Governor Hutchinson coming out. Basically, what he said. All right, this obviously isn't verbatim. It's just kind of just going over what he meant by today's presser. The way I took it, and we played it at the beginning. If you're just coming in now and you don't know what I'm talking about, we had the live video earlier today of what Governor Hutchinson had to say. You can go watch that in its entirety, or you can go back to the beginning where he just kind of talks about where he says, "Hey, get ready to put the helmet on Monday." Blah blah blah. Talking about practices starting. I guess their fall camps are going to be starting next week. So what really this is Governor Hutchinson and Kevin Bohannon, who's on the Hog Talk podcast, brought this up, and he made a really good point. I took this. I mean, this is exactly what I took from it, and I think it's the correct assessment here. Essentially, Governor Hutchinson has this is him supporting the idea of starting high school football with maybe a little bit of a delay. That's what today was, because other states they're moving to spring, and I look, okay, especially in states like Arkansas, where you got a lot of small. You look at these 2A, 3A, even the 4A and 5A schools, they're small and they don't get recognition. They don't get the same kind of exposure that the 7A does, like the 7A West, and then you go down to Little Rock. If you're even kind of good and you've got someone promoting you, you've got a head coach supporting you, and you've got a family support behind you, and you stand out just a little bit on film, the odds are you got a shot at getting some college paid for. It may be a small school. But here's why I think spring football would be it's harmful anywhere. Why it's going to harm these kids if they do end up it's still on the table. Make no mistake about it. It's still on the table that you have spring football in the state of Arkansas. But you do that. What about those kids who rely on that senior film? Instead of having that fall film, instead of going through the typical kind of stuff that you deal with preseason, regular season, and then off-season, that typical standard orthodox regular season of football, it's all out the window. You can't, you've got to wait until spring to put yourself out there. So then what does that do? Look at even just UCA, right? Look at the smaller schools, UAPB. Look at all these other smaller schools. They need film to offer you. Well, signing period's already come and gone. You're talking about March, April, right? That's what you're talking about here. March, April, maybe into May, depending on how they squeeze these games together. I don't know. And this is also depending on COVID, as usual. So you don't have senior film to get recruited in that recruiting cycle. Now, if you're already a big dog on campus, odds are you're not losing anything here. But if you're a smaller school trying to go to UAPB, UCA, whatever, you're trying to get some college, some schooling paid for, that's gone. They're not going to pump the brakes. UCA's not going to pump the brakes and go, "Oh, hold up, guys, hold on." Now, they might. I don't know. There might be a couple of situations where they do that, or maybe they hold on to a scholarship for a player or a partial scholarship, whatever. It's not good to push this thing to spring football, and especially in states like Arkansas, Mississippi. You think of the smaller. Well, Louisiana's a pretty big high school football state, but you think of these smaller states that have a lot of rural, small high schools, and these kids are trying to get some college paid for. That affects them. They have no film. They have no senior film, and a lot of kids, especially those smaller high schools, rely on that senior film. And it's out the window if you have spring football. I don't know what you do. I don't know what the NCAA is going to allow the universities to do. And this is an ongoing, changing, evolving situation with COVID as we're learning how to deal with it and how to learn to live with it in terms of what the institutions are doing to make sure things go somewhat as planned, and we're learning to live with it and change and evolve with it. And unfortunately, there's going to be some kids that get overlooked if you push the thing back to spring football. That's my point. Will kids be trying to come to Arkansas and play this year? I don't know what you mean, Seth. I have no idea what do you mean? You got to be a little bit more specific. Tripp says during the spring, baseball and soccer basically play at the same time, and then add football in there. Multi-sport athletes are going to have to make a choice. That's another very good point, Tripp. Tripp, you kill it with these questions, by the way. Kyle and I have said that now 2 weeks in a row. Like, your questions are on point, my man. That's a good point you just made there. You've got these other kids now. They're going to have to choose what's best for you. What are the odds of you getting some form of financial aid? What is it? Football? Is that your best sport? Is it baseball? I think track is track going on during? I can't remember. I wasn't in track, obviously. My physique did not allow that, being a fat offensive lineman at Fayetteville. But soccer, like Tripp points out here, it's a very good point. You're going to have to now make a decision, and some kids think it's football when really it's baseball. We saw Connor Nolan. We saw what he did when he got to campus. Of course, his scholarship, he was good no matter what. He wasn't facing these kind of situations. He wasn't dealing with COVID. But he ended up not figuring it out until he got on campus. Broham Todd, nothing better than Ty on the big screen via the Google Chrome cast on a Friday. Thank you, Broham Todd. You're the man. You are the man. Are the shades extra clean on your Google Chrome there on the screen? Are they extra clean? All right. Anyways, so moving on. Governor Hutchinson. I love that he came out. Look, he needed to come out and say something, and he did. I don't always like the guy. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But I think he did the right thing here in saying, okay, look, It's August. Like, we're there. By the way, happy birthday, Archie 56. If you're in chat, tomorrow is your birthday, August 1st. I won't reveal your age here, but happy birthday. That is my pops if he happens to be in chat. I don't know if he's off work yet or not. But so you're in August. You had to come out and say something, and he did. And I think he said the right thing, and basically it was, we're supporting. Now, here's the other part of this. I'm going to pop this up on the screen. You guys saw it earlier. This is essentially who he's right there. He's handing this off to these guys. Okay? Don't let the drip distract you from this. All right? Let's read what this thing says for those of you who are like me and need glasses. Arkansas Activities Association. It's up to these guys now. I mean, this is what he's doing. He's putting it on them. He wants them to come up with a plan to get high school football in fall. After the governor's announcement today, we have been given the approval to proceed according to the 2020-2021 AAA calendar and handbook regarding practice and competition for all sports. We continue to expect compliance with all directives as issued by the Governor and Department of Health. More information related to the directives will be issued as soon as it is released. So, there you go. That's what he's doing. He's handing it off, and that's what else do you do? I mean, these are the guys that are in charge of this. These are the guys that are going to deal with compliance and everything. This is the right thing for him to do. I support it. I'm glad that he came out. I think for him to come out and say, you know what, no matter what, we're having football. That would have been like, look, we know if we get another huge spike in the state of Arkansas. You remember NWA, I think at one point I was reading people on Twitter say, oh, your death toll is going to be in the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. When you get of course, we know what reality, sometimes you got to wait around for reality to catch up to some of these people, and then they disappear. But it did spread. COVID-19 spread, and if you get another huge spike like that, especially in Little Rock, Pulaski, or Washington counties, wherever, in these big areas, that's where the biggest populations are. Then you go down to to the River Valley, and then if you have a large spread there, and you see these numbers go up. And by the way, he talked about some more numbers today. He said he saw some things that were a good sign, and he talked about Washington County, how some of these numbers from COVID were coming back. The analytics were pointing in a positive direction. look, I hate masks. Those of you, I'm not okay with anyone telling you how to live your life, but wearing a mask matters. Like, just wear the mask. It sucks. I hate them. My breathing isn't always, like, I sometimes struggle a little bit with these masks wearing them, yeah, but I can learn to live with it if I'm just going to Walmart. I'm not going to tell you you should wear a mask, or I'm going to be a Karen, and I'm going to call you into the local to the mask police. I'm going to get you. I'm not doing that. I don't think anybody should, but I think you should try to wear your mask. And I think that and I know people want to talk about the science. Well, it's not exactly proven, but guys, it's even if it helps a little bit, just why not? By the way, Hog Talk, we're getting our own masks made. I think we're going to have some of our own masks made. It's going to be just for us. So when I get mine, I'll show it to you. I'm kind of excited for it, actually. Looks pretty clean. Looks clean. I don't know if it's as clean as the shades. Let's see. Let's get caught up. During the spring. No, we already read that one. Nothing better than Ty. I already read that one, too. Thank you, Ty. You're welcome, Trip. They're so fresh and so clean, my man. Thank you. So fresh and so clean. Fishman says old people should stay home. Problem solved. Young people aren't at risk. Jeez, laugh out loud. Well, I'm not gonna have that debate here, but yeah, we know that this is it's a little bit different when you're older, especially when you're in like your 70s. It's a little bit different, and I agree. Try to stay home if you can, if you're able to. I know some people financially they cannot. That's a different story. Medical experts are getting closer to finding a proper treatment for COVID. Wouldn't be surprised if the AAA delays the season until fall, winter, but then I point to my previous point, but with basketball. So I don't know about pushing it back to I could see them pushing it back several weeks into the fall. I don't see them doing a winter. I see them doing what all the other states have done, which is going in the spring. That's what I see. Which SEC teams look? Let's see. Which SEC easy teams look forwarded to the most seeing Arkansas play maybe this fall? Or will we play SEC West teams twice? So, yeah, we'll get to that in just a second, Seth. I promise that's right around the corner. I came in late. Sorry. How dare you, Tim? You're good, man. I'm thankful for you. I'm happy that you're here. All right, let's move on to the next thing. All right, August 3rd. Speaking of basketball, August 3rd is going to be the deadline for Isaiah Joe to withdraw his name from the NBA draft. I don't see it happening. There's been some little birds tweeting that Joe could actually be taken higher than expected. I don't know. I'm going to tell you, and this isn't coming from a biased Arkansas fan, I think that if he wants to be a guaranteed first rounder, I think he could even excel further than just a first rounder, a lottery pick possibly. I think he's that caliber of talent. I'm not saying that he is that right now. Pump your brakes before you start sending me the WTF comments or the emails or the DMs. But I think he's that caliber of player that if he has the kind of year that he needs to have, and if now that you have a presence down low, now that you've got more guys that let's be honest, on paper and on film, a little bit more talent than what you had to work with a year ago, minus Mason Jones, obviously. But I think he would just benefit just huge, big time if he came back another year. He'd have to have like the best year of his entire career, high school, junior high school, college, to be a lottery pick. But I truly believe he's that caliber of talent. Just from a potential standpoint, and then what we've seen when he's 100% healthy, what he does to the floor because of his range, especially when he gets hot. Teams know you've got to change everything. The spacing becomes a little bit more wide open, and now you're going to have size underneath. You're going to tell me that Muss is going to lighten the load on him? I don't think so. I think Muss has him pull the trigger even more than what he did a year ago. I really believe that, assuming if he were to come back. California delayed high school football until January, though. Yeah, but there's other states that have pushed back to spring no trip, and that's been talked about as being on the table in the state of Arkansas. He needs extra rep, but knowing current players, they're hungry to go pro. Broham Todd says a conference-only schedule for the Razorbacks maybe could mean a 4 or 5 win season. Brandon Allen, really quick, was rumored to sign with Cincinnati. I've not seen that confirmed yet. But former Arkansas Razorback quarterback, rumored to sign. I don't know if has the ink. Has he actually put pen to paper on that? I'm not entirely sure. I tried Googling that before we went live. I didn't see anything where it was a done deal. Maybe it is. I just missed it. But Brandon Allen, that's the rumor that he's expected to sign with the Bengals. Okay, SEC 10-game schedule, what you guys are already talking about in chat. Oh, boy. So you're going to play Texas A&M at A&M this year. That's already been talked about. Hunter Yurchek mentioned this. We better get a home at home then. And I completely agree, but I don't know that he's going to get that. Because, well, I mean, it just depends on the contract that you have with the stadium. It depends on the contract that you have with A&M and with Jerry Jones. I tell you, man, my eyes. Whew. I don't know that he gets it. But he's not wrong in the assessment that would be the fair thing for the SEC to allow and for this contract because of the unorthodox year that we've had with COVID. Assuming things are somewhat, but they're never going to be back to normal. But when they're somewhat back to normal next year, and if you've got everything lined out with your scheduling, you're probably going to have to play that game and maybe wait to schedule that game until the year after the contract's over with. Where you have like a year delay. I think that contract is over in 2022, or maybe it's 21, or maybe I'm getting it mixed up with the Little Rock contract. But I don't know how that's going to play out. Hunter Yurchek wants that now to be a home and home. I don't know that he gets that. I think you play this thing down at 12th Man, down at Kyle Field, and then you end up playing it right back in the Cowboy Stadium. I hate that. I wish this was in Fayetteville, but hogs are going to hog. And that's just the way this thing is. And I think that's the correct method of how this season was supposed to go anyways. A&M was supposed to be the home team this year. So it's too bad, but I don't think he gets it. I'll be surprised if he gets the home and home, but you've got to consider the contract that's been signed and what all's going there. I'm not even entirely sure. This could have been the last year of the contract for all I can remember. But I think it was 2021 or 2022 when the contract was to be revisited. So this 10-game only schedule, I've had this mentioned to me now. I've had this argument. Well, not an argument. This conversation with actually my neighbor Alex, who is in our Discord, by the way, and other people in the DMs. For whatever reason, I've got people telling me now all of a sudden Arkansas is going to win 4 or 5 games. What? You haven't won 1 in 2 years. And I get Chad Morris is like the X factor and all that. Chad Morris is a big part of the reason him and his tight end coach for quarterback coach or offensive coordinator Craddock, they were in over their heads. But you've got a situation where this thing starts. Look, the schedule starts September 26th. All right? By the way, the SEC is joining the Big Ten and the Pac-12 to have shortened conference-only schedules. Although the Big Ten, or no, is it the ACC is playing the conference-only +1. And obviously Notre Dame is in that picture as well. And by the way, for those of you who have been living under a rock for the last few days, I get it. It's easy to do right now. Notre Dame and Arkansas is not happening, obviously, with the news of the 10-game schedule in the SEC. So Notre Dame's not happening. That's off the table. You don't play them again until what, like 2029, 2052? Too long away. I hate how they did that. I really wish that was a back-to-back home and home series. So, okay. There's a lot to talk about here because I've had someone screenshot a schedule to me that was a possibility of a schedule where you play LSU like right out the gate. Guys, I'm not kidding when I say this. I think your low and your floor and your ceiling aren't that different, or there's not a big difference there. I think your low, you really could go 0-10. I think that's an absolute reality. I've mentioned that here before, and I've mentioned that on the Hog Talk. That shouldn't come as a huge shocker to some of you who are in these shows or who come by and listen to these YouTube videos and these live streams. That is absolutely on the table. You've got a 58-year-old first-time head coach who, let's be honest, is working with probably bottom 4 talent in the SEC. Couple that with the crazy, awful, terrible offseason that we've had, right? Like, you've got camp. I think, now we were talking about this with the Hog Talk. I think fall camp has been pushed. I think they can start on the 7th, which would be a Friday. And then your season starts on the 26th. And you didn't get a spring camp. So it's just stacked up against Sam Pitman this year. And it's not his fault. You know, the good here is that he has, I think, one of the top 4 staffs in all the SEC. I think his staff this is probably the best staff they've had on in years. This is good grief. You know, Bryles, your play caller, a guy you got to feel pretty confident in, especially what he's been able to do in his style and his system. Of course, the 1 year at Florida State, a lot of things happened, injuries, off the field turmoil, so on and so forth. It was just you knew it was coming. It was Florida State, and that whole situation was coming down, and he just happened to be the guy on the boat as it was sinking. But you look at his history before that, the guy is just super impressive. What he's been able to do with quarterbacks, his ability to attract quarterbacks and receivers. Justin Stepp, you guys know how I feel about him. I think he's one of the best receiving recruiters Arkansas's had in some time. Obviously, defense coordinator Grooms. And you talk about the assistants, all the guys around them. This is an impressive staff. And you hope that Grooms Barry Odom. You hope that these guys can get everything leveled out, help Sam Pitman out where he needs it. It's just the deck is stacked against him here. I hate it that this has happened this way, but I'm going to say this too, though. I think they get at least a win, and that's improvement. You don't have the non-conference games to lean on. You don't have the other, you're missing those games. So the question is, if you get just one win, are you happy with that? I think you should be, because you haven't won one SEC game in 2 years. And you combine that with everything that's happened, with the talent gap that they have right now between them and the rest of the SEC, that's a win. 1-9 is a win for Arkansas in terms of heading in the right direction. Right, putting that, taking that right step in the right direction. Did C.J. O'Grady ever get signed to a free agent deal? I don't think he did. I don't think Cheyenne ever got signed, and that is so shocking to me. I wasn't completely shocked that he didn't get signed or drafted. I wasn't completely shocked with his, leaving the team and everything. And then, of course, you look back at his time in Arkansas. He got into trouble a couple of times, or at least once. So you're not surprised, but I figured he would have been signed by somebody by now. Too talented not to be. So no, as far as I know, he hasn't. HGR official says, "Here's to a 1-9 season, boys." It absolutely could be the case, and that's sickening. But you have to look at it as that's improvement, because you haven't won an SEC game in the last 2 years. Fishman says 0-10. Winnable games for the Hogs: Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Mizzou, South Carolina. If that's one of their teams, I think right now that's just on the table. South Carolina and Georgia, I think, is who's on the table. And those two SEC unknowns right now, again, I think it's going to be – that's who you're going to end up drawing. I could be wrong. You get one at home and one on the road. That's the good news. You're not playing them both on the road, for the love of God. You're getting one at home and one on the way. One at home, one on the road. But yeah, I think it's absolutely possible you go 0-10. But I think their ceiling, they really could sneak out 2 or 3 wins. I really do think that's the absolute. I think that's their ceiling. But think of the improvement, though. How many SEC games have you won in the last 3 years? This could be the year that sets you up, right? It's got to be. You got to be able to start gaining momentum for year 2, and then you start working on top of that. If we have football at all, says Mark Douglas, I count that as a win. We still have obstacles that could get in the way. Absolutely. There's so many things that could go wrong, and that's what sucks about this whole ordeal. We don't know. This is just a guessing game. We got to go. Hunter Yurchek's been talking more and more with the media. What I love about Hunter is he doesn't shy away from it. Hunter comes out and he talks. He does what he does. I don't know if he can raise money like Jeff Long was able to do with the foundation, but good grief, he's not afraid to get in front of the camera, get on Zoom calls with the media and be like, all right, this is what we're going to do. This is the plan. This is kind of what I'm going to lay it out here for you, and he does a really good win. Sam beats Will. Yeah, so if they find a way, if Arkansas finds a way to get a win, to me that's the right step in the right. It's not where we want to be, and you get people who say, well, we should never settle with that, but you've got to look at the last 3 years. It's not fair to say, well, we can't settle with 1 or 2 wins this year. It's not fair to Sam Pitman to say that because of what he's walking into. And you can't blame him if he does go 0-10. And if that happens, the morale we thought was low before. We thought the morale is at an all-time low right now for football, and I know it is. I look around at other content creators. I look around. I see what they're having to do to create content, to get views. Nobody, like you guys are the diehards. In my opinion, you guys that are here now, you're the diehards, which is great. But Razorback sports, football is at an all-time low. The morale, the excitement for it, and that's not Sam Pittman's fault. That's not the players' fault. That's not the staff's fault. That's just the situation. That's the hand they've been dealt with. That's the hand that they were dealt. So you have to figure out a way. You've got to get a win. In my opinion, one win, that's where you start. And then you start building on top of that year 2 and year 3 and year 4. Agree, think 3 wins is roof. 4 if we get lucky. 5 if the football gods take pity on us. When have the football gods ever taken pity on Arkansas? And I hate to bring up the Sterner fumble, but that felt like divine intervention on behalf of Tennessee if there ever was such a thing. I still remember seeing, I think I was in like 9th grade when that happened, and I still just, it felt like the foul ball against Oregon State in the World Series. Like it was that same feeling. And then what's the saying? Hog's gonna hog. Let's see. God, Ty, I sure as hell hope basketball happens. Fish, you're not wrong. Basketball, I think, is going to be – luckily, you've got time on that. We've got time to see what happens with COVID. We've got time to see how the states how the NCAA reacts to all this, to college football. What we're seeing is the grand experiment that's happening right now is NBA and Major League Baseball. We had the situation with Florida Marlins. Who here is shocked that a team in Florida is the first team to blow up with COVID and have this outbreak on a team? Not me. Not me. Show of hands? Who's surprised that it's Florida? Like, nobody should be surprised. But I want more details on that, though. How many of these guys are walking around asymptomatic? How many of them are actually sick? And if they're not feeling anything, if they're asymptomatic, then just keep them in the clubhouse. Now I think they're going to delay their games, but that is the grand experiment right now. It's how the MLB handles this, and it hasn't been a huge issue yet in the MLB. The NBA, we keep hearing about these tests coming back negative. Why? Because they're under the watchful eye of team physicians, of medical experts. And we've made this point on the HTP. Who's better suited to take care of these kids? Their parents at home? Their community at home? No. Or an athletic facility that has millions and millions of dollars invested into it. And the fact that those players are walking around, let's be honest, those players are dollar bills. Okay, they're going to keep an eye on their money, on those players. Let's be real. That's what they are, all of them. And that's fine. That's business. That's the market economy, and that makes for a better situation for these kids in their athletic facilities. They're going to be taken care of there. That's why you're getting all these positive or these negative tests. They're under constant surveillance. Now, that's not going to. Obviously, we've seen what happens at Florida. Someone got it spread, but I want to know the specifics. Are these guys laying around on their deathbeds, or are they okay? Because, they're guys mostly in their 20s and early to mid-30s, and they're in relatively good shape, even though in baseball you can have a beer gut and still be considered a star. But thank God for baseball. I'm glad it's at least back, even though the Cardinals are terrible right now. I think they're on a 3-game losing streak. But did they win? Did they win their last game? I can't remember. But that, to me, that's where we need to really pay attention. That's the great experiment happening right now, and that's the NBA and the MLB. We'll see how it pans out. We'll see if it just spreads all across the MLB and they're just like, you know what, we're done. And that could happen. Guys, that very well could happen. That is a realistic possibility. And the MLB is going to do the best they can to protect its interest, which is exactly what the SEC and all these other Power 5 conferences and the NCAA are doing with these players. And I do believe these schools do care for their kids. I don't think they look at them as a bunch of walking around dollar bills. But let's be honest, these guys bring in the revenue, right? So, right now things are positive, but that could change tomorrow. Archie 56, happy birthday to me. Yeah, I already said happy birthday to you in earlier. I think you missed it though, Pops. Chat, how about it? Can you guys give Archie 56 a happy birthday? That's Papa Hudson there. That's Grandpa Hudson. Well, my dad, my kid's grandfather. If we could just beat Mizzou, I think it would save the whole season, right? And this is what I hope happens. Just be competitive. Don't lose games until late in the third or fourth quarter. Get an SEC win. I'm going to consider that. I'm gonna be excited for that. Now, don't get me wrong. We're gonna have post games where I'm probably pissed off and I'm in here yelling, right? Like I did last year. Even in basketball, I had some post games here where I wasn't too happy. But still, like, when you look back after the last game of the season, assuming we have a year, you're gonna look back and you go, okay, no, we were competitive in all 12 games, or at least 10 or 12 games. Alabama, you get. LSU, you get. They did just win a national title, even though they're a different team this year. Some of these teams, if you do end up drawing Georgia, you get probably getting blown out. But if you can be competitive in most of your games, 75% of your games, and then get an SEC win, I think that's the right step. The Cardinals just had a few positive tests. Well, they may have. And like I said, this is the experiment. We're going to see how you're going to have more positive because they're testing. I think they're trying to test within 24 hours of their games. I'd heard in college the idea if you have a season with 72, I think you ought to push that up to 24 hours before kickoff, maybe even 12 hours before kickoff if you want my opinion. Happy birthday, Papa. Mark Douglas, I can give a birthday. Hell, I got a ton of them to spare. Getting old sucks. Add Vandy and add South Carolina. Wouldn't that be nice if you could draw those two? South Carolina, they just seem like they're in a downward trend. I don't think South Carolina is. I think they're looking at like a 3-9. Maybe if they're lucky, they can win 3 minutes. KJ Adams commits. Okay. Well, all right. So I think that's it. I'm going to look down my list here. Oh, really quick on Notre Dame. So Notre Dame, we know they're not going to play Arkansas. That's off. We know that now with the SEC coming out saying they're going to do a conference only. So this was rumored, and I believe it's probably going to happen. The ACC announced it will play a 10-game conference with one non-conference game in 2020. Their options, I think it's Western Michigan. Was it Western Michigan? And then, of course, Navy. They've played Navy every single season since 1927. Per ACC rules, so yeah, they're going to end up playing Navy. That's going to happen. Per ACC rules, schools have to play that plus -1 at home, and the Navy game is scheduled at Navy. So the Arkansas game was supposed to be at Notre Dame. We know that, but that's just, maybe if Arkansas was a what they were when Petrino, like in 2011, if you were going into 2012 and this was all happening and you had there's no doubt in my mind Notre Dame, Arkansas would be happening. The fact that Arkansas is just the bottom of the SEC, they've won 2 games the last couple of seasons. That is truly the reason why this game isn't happening, if you want my opinion. The fact that Arkansas isn't relevant is why that game's not happening. If they were more competitive, if they were, like I said, maybe at the height of when Brett Bielema was trending in the right direction. You remember that? Year 2, he's ahead of schedule. If that in year 3 you had Notre Dame and you had COVID, there's no doubt in my mind Arkansas and Notre Dame would be happening. Unfortunately, Arkansas is just not very good. According to Brandon Marcello of 247 Sports, the ACC is expected to start its season on September 12th. Non-conference games for all 14 members plus Notre Dame have yet to be announced. The ACC Commissioner John Swofford came out and said Friday today the scheduling arrangement with Notre Dame for the 2020 football season is a win-win for both the Irish and the league. But he added it's a one-time thing. That right now it's a temporary deal. His words. So for those of you asking about Notre Dame. I was having a good conversation with someone in my Twitter DMs about Notre Dame being a permanent member. This is of the ACC, being a permanent member of the ACC. This is a one-time thing right now, but that could change. It could change. I think it should. Join a freaking conference already, Notre Dame. All right. Don't forget, so that's going to do it. I'm going to go order a pizza, and I'm going to feed these hungry kids. But don't forget to watch the listen to the latest Hog Talk podcast that is available for you down below in the description box. Also, again, shout out to the Patreon supporters and to anybody who's donated to the PayPal. The links are provided for you down below. If you want to become a member of Patreon, the minimum is $4 a month. If you want to help contribute to this channel, that'd be awesome. If not, I appreciate you guys being here and watching and being a part of all this. You guys are rock stars. And things should go as planned on Monday, going live between 4 and 6 p.m. I'm going to give you guys a heads up. This fall, things are going to change quite a bit around here in the Hudson household. I don't know how this will affect my ability to go live on Monday and Friday. I don't know how it's going to affect, and this is going to be through all fall going into winter. I won't give details, but things are going to change here. A decision we've made here in the Hudson household regarding our children. Things are going to change here. I don't know how much it's going to affect my ability to go live on Mondays and Fridays. Scheduling could change. It could remain the same. I just want to give you guys a heads up. Let's see. I will be happy with 0 wins as long as we look competitive. If we look like a dumpster fire, I agree. That's exactly it. Yeah, I get it. Alex Henderson says play Kentucky and South Carolina. Yeah, well, Jacob Botwinick, I removed that message. I guess you deleted something. Okay, again, I'll see you guys hopefully on Monday, assuming all goes as planned. Woo pig suey, and I'll see you then. You guys be